Going to college can be quite an amazing experience. There's so much to do and learn. You get to have the opportunity to meet new and interesting people, study hard, and have fun. Many college students like to join sororities where they can make lifelong memories. Some sorority initiations are lighthearted and silly, while others can demand a lot more than you may have bargained for. So if you end up in a sorority initiation and you're not comfortable with what is being asked of you, what would you do?
Hello there, welcome. Thanks for joining me on another night filled with tales of terror. Tonight's video takes us back to college and sororities and getting an invitation to join a sorority. In this video, we're going to be following two girls, Luann and Carlene, and what they experience and all they have to endure to get into this sorority. So as you're listening to this story, you may wonder if what you're hearing is fact or fiction. And here's where I'm going to ask you just to hold on to the very end of the video so we can all find out together just what it is that we heard. And with that, I think we should get started. But before we do, I just want to ask you to get comfortable, click the like and subscribe buttons because it really helps me out. Turn down the lights and let's begin.
It's so cold, Luann whimpered. She and Carlene, a girl she'd met that night, both shivered from the freezing temperature outside. Cold and scared, they held each other while hiding behind a row of shrubs. They couldn't be older than 18. They were two beautiful young girls, hopeful and ready to break away from their teenage chains and jump feet first into the wild and limitless world of adulthood. This all started when Luann and Carlene were invited to attend a sorority initiation along with a few other girls. But leading up to the night of the initiation, Luann had a strange feeling about the whole thing. She never saw herself as sorority material, and from the looks of Carlene, she found it strange that she was invited as well. "This has got to be some sort of crazy dream," Carlene whimpered, breaking Luann away from her thoughts. "No, this isn't a dream. This is a nightmare," Luann whispered to Carlene. Luann peeked through the shrubs. She looked directly at the doorway to the old plantation mansion she was inside of just minutes ago. She thought about the other girls she and Carlene arrived with. They had to be dead. There's no way they could survive in there. Luann turned her attention back to Carlene as she started coughing. "Shh! You need to be quiet." Carlene nodded as she tried to control her cough, but then she started choking and a wet gurgling sound erupted from her throat. Luann watched the terror in Carlene's face as she struggled to breathe. Then, to both their horror, that wet gurgling sound surged its way up through Carlene's throat and exploded from her mouth. It was blood, and a lot of it. Both girls fell backwards from each other, horrified and speechless. Carlene lay on the wet ground. Her body looked suddenly frail, and her skin was growing pale by the second, it seemed. "Whoa, we've got to get you to a hospital," Luann said, looking wild-eyed at Carlene. "I'm too weak," Carlene whispered back. Luann looked again at the mansion and felt a split second of relief. A thick fog was rolling in. Luann knew they could use the fog for cover as they made their escape. Within seconds, the fog became so dense she could barely see Carlene or what was in front of them. "Screw this. We're going now," Luann said as she grabbed Carlene. "I'll fucking drag you if I have to," she said, determined to get out of there before it was too late. The girls moved as quickly as possible as they ran into the open grounds of the plantation. Pulling Carlene every step of the way, Luann got them to the cover of a weeping willow tree. "God, I hope we're going in the right direction," Luann thought as she looked around. If she could just get to her car, they'd be free from this nightmare. Luann cringed as she laid Carlene down. With all her initial adrenaline from moments ago, she forgot that one of the sorority sisters had bitten her shoulder while they were inside. She touched the area of the bite and hissed from the sting. She let out a sob as she felt her own blood on her hand. "No, what's happening to me?" Luann whispered. She was beginning to feel sick and angry over what she and Carlene had just escaped from. Her energy started to slowly drain and her legs began feeling like lead. She knew, though, she had to keep moving if she wanted to get out of that place. Her survival instincts kicked in. She looked at Carlene and for a split second considered leaving her behind. Her energy was beginning to falter. It was hard enough to get her own legs to move, and dragging Carlene along would only make it harder and slow her down. She took a few steps forward but then stopped. She couldn't leave Carlene there. She'd be a sitting duck left to suffer at the hands of those crazed sorority sisters. Besides, she was raised to help those in need. She'd lost count of all the strays she'd rescued and found homes for over the years. That was her goal. Animals. She was going to become a veterinarian and volunteer some of her time to different rescue agencies. That was if she made it out of this nightmare and away from this godforsaken place. Luann's body suddenly jerked from the sudden fright she felt. Carlene was sitting up and laughing. Luann looked at her with disbelief and shock. "Why are you laughing?" Luann asked her. Carlene began laughing hysterically. "Don't you see? Don't you get it?" Carlene blurted out through her laughter. Luann stood shivering as she watched Carlene. She couldn't get any words out. She stood there in disbelief. She was stunned and speechless by what she was seeing. Carlene was dead, but she was alive. "You're dead, aren't you? But you're talking to me," Luann slowly said. Carlene laid back down and looked up at the inside of the tree. Then her eyes slid over to look at Luann. Her mouth stretched into a blood-stained grin. Looking at her, Luann stepped back. Carlene scared her. "We're hiding under a weeping willow tree," Carlene laughed. "Yes, I know that," Luann said, her voice quivering. "Don't you realize what this represents?" Carlene's tone became sharp. She looked at Luann's scared and confused expression. Another fit of laughter erupted from her. "Ancient folklore, dummy!" Carlene continued through her annoyed laughter. Luann continued to watch Carlene with wide, frightened eyes. Carlene became serious. "This is the death tree, my friend. We're going to die." Carlene bolted upward and pointed a pale finger at Luann. "You've just led us to our death." Luann tried to step away from her. She was telling herself to run, but her body wouldn't move. A sudden loud and violent slamming of the plantation's front door rattled Luann. Carlene stared at her, unfazed by the loud interruption. From the porch, Luann and Carlene could hear Veronica's soft, soothing voice. She was the exquisitely beautiful leader of this sorority. "Luann, Carlene, please come in from the cold. You're certain to catch your death out there." Veronica spoke with a somewhat maternal tone in her voice. "We wouldn't want that now, would we?" Her questioning voice flowed through the large garden. Luann's heart was now in her throat. She clutched the tree to keep her knees from buckling under. She was under the pressure of so much fear and panic she didn't know what to do. Should we go back in? What if it's just all my imagination? These questions swam through Luann's mind. Carlene stood glaring at Luann. She was seething in anger. Luann could hear hissing coming through Carlene's tightly clenched and blood-stained teeth with every rapid breath that escaped her. Then she noticed it. Carlene had been bitten too. There was a large, gaping bite on her neck. To make things worse, Luann saw Carlene's body becoming stiffer with each rapid hiss. It was as if she were going through rigor mortis. Luann knew right then and there Carlene was dying, or she was already dead. Nothing was making sense. "Luann," Veronica called out to her with a song-like tone, snatching her attention away from Carlene. "I have to get out of here," Luann thought as tears poured from her eyes. I have to go now," she whispered to herself, staring at Carlene's corpse of a body. Carlene only stared back at Luann, hissing. I'm so sorry I couldn't help you," Luann cried as she moved away from Carly's sinister grin. Luann started to back away. She was leaving Carly behind. "Luann, darling, please come back and join us," Veronica called out. Trembling with adrenaline and panic, Luann didn't know which direction she should run towards. "Just move," Luann told herself, forcing her feet to move. She took a guess and bolted toward where she believed her car might be. She ran and ran as fast as she could. Her lungs were beginning to burn from running so hard. She felt like she was putting a good amount of distance between the mansion and herself, but she wasn't going to slow down. Then the laughter came. It was distant and faint at first, but before she knew it, she was surrounded by the sound of laughter. It moved around her with extreme speed. She was being toyed with. The laughter would sound right next to her ear. Then another laugh would sound miles away, and yet another laugh would crack behind her. Terror-stricken, Luann spun in circles, screaming for them to leave her alone. But their laughter only grew fierce. Finally, she screamed so loud that her legs gave out and she dropped to her knees. She hid her face in her hands, rocking back and forth, defeated. She accepted her fate. She looked up, and through the thick fog, she saw Carleen standing with the other girls she'd met earlier that evening. They were all pale and bloodied. They were corpses. Then Veronica emerged from behind the girls. She was more beautiful than when they first met earlier. It was beginning to make sense to Luann. There was no sorority to join. They were there to be fed on. This realization choked Luann to the point she couldn't speak. Veronica offered a sympathetic smile. "Tisk, tisk. You foolish girls come here every year expecting to become part of something you've conjured inside your pathetic little brains, from ideas you've taken from movies and television. My apologies, dear, but that's not real life." Luann forced herself to speak. This can't be happening?" "Oh, but it is." Another sympathetic smile crossed Veronica's lips. "You, darling, are on the precipice of your death. Welcome it." The last thing Luann saw was the change in Veronica. Veronica's eyes became pitch black. There was no life in them. Then she saw the long ivory fangs protrude from Veronica's blood-red mouth just before she pounced on her with the fierceness of a rabid animal.
Okay, so what'd you think of tonight's video? Think you'd ever pledge to a sorority filled with vampires? I don't think so. Anyway, if you guessed that tonight's video is a work of fiction, well, you'd be right. This is another story I wrote for tonight's video. So it's looking like it's time to get going. But before we do, I just want to ask you to please click the like and subscribe buttons for me, and then to prepare for more tales of terror delivered to you weekly at 3 a.m. So until then, stay safe and stay scary.